You are listening to the Centaku Media podcast, a source for sharing interests beyond the scope of anime because we're in the center of other otaku interests. Hey, this is your host Sanjo Chan, and you're listening to episode 11 of the Centaku Media Journal, and this is the episode for the week of October 11th, 2020, and we are down to the wire as far as future episodes of the Centaku Media Journal go. So in the last episode, I announced that I was gonna go ahead and do this on a seasonal basis, like with many shows, and it'll be easier for myself as far as productivity and all that good stuff. So episode 12 will be the end of the first season of the Centaku Media Journal, which will be on October 28th. And for those that are just tuning in for the first time, this will be on a bi-weekly basis. So you're listening to this episode this week, which will be on October 14th. So the final episode of season 1 will be on the 28th, 2 weeks from the release of this episode. So if you're just joining in for the first time, thank you for listening, and be sure to check out past episodes. And I do plan on putting this on YouTube. Of course, it's just going to be an audio format, but I got to be creative as far as, making it all nice for YouTube. I tried doing it just audio only format for, some, anime and manga analysis, but I just wasn't satisfied with it, at least of the way I was going. It was a work in progress anyway, but I think with me doing a podcast, I can just incorporate that into many different topics. So this is what the Centaku Media Journal is about. I guess to put it differently, Centaku Media Journal covers news highlights from the last couple of weeks when it comes to anime, gaming, and K-pop and J-pop. But I do have a monthly series will now be on an as-needed basis. So that's what I meant to say. So I tried to upload an additional episode in addition to the Centaku Media Journal, but with this said, I will only upload the quote-unquote monthly episodes on an as-needed basis. So effective immediately, there will not be an October monthly episode unless I decide to come up with something at the last minute, and I'll post it when it needs to be posted. So I originally, when I launched a podcast back in April, May, I had the idea of uploading episodes at the end last Wednesday of the month, and then while I was producing the second full episode, or third episode, not counting this, if you count the pilot, I decided to throw in a Centaku Media Journal because that's what I used to publish on Centaku May back in the day when I had the centakume.info. I used to post the Centaku May Journal, which would do just that. I would highlight highlights. So basically talk about highlights of what I see in a fandom. So if I'm going to a con, I'll highlight, hey, I'm going to this con this weekend. It'll be a lot of fun. Or this was announced, I'm excited about it, so I just wanted to share with everyone. So this is kind of, it's transformed from, sporadic posts into something serious as far as getting the name of Centaku Media out there, at least in the podcast role. So I've launched this podcast actually 10 years ago, but it didn't go anywhere, so I just can't do it. It was during a period where I had burnout, and then there was some other issues on top of that. It's kind of difficult to explain here, and then I had issues a few years after that, and then after those issues manifested, I said, you know what, I'm going to get back into this. I'm going to relaunch Centaku Media, and here I am now. So anyway, I hope everyone's doing okay. It is October, and it's spooky season for a lot of people that are really into Halloween, and I know Halloween's going to be a little different this year. So I hope everyone is still going to have a good time despite some changes. Halloween will be spent indoors. Go out there, buy yourself a bag of candy, and call it a day. And also, dress up your favorite cosplay while you're at it. Just spend, I guess, on the day of Halloween in your favorite cosplay. I might do that myself. I might cosplay, just around the house, take some pictures for the gram and all that stuff. But what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so AWA could have been this month, Anime Weekend Atlanta. For those that don't know, because they've moved it to Halloween weekend, which was I think effective as of last year. And I know it's kind of weird last year for me because it was cold. Well, a lot of people it was weird because it was cold. Because normally AWA was held at the second week of fall, and normally it would be like Indian summer kind of weather, warm and then maybe cold one day, but then it'll get back hot again. But no, like I remember the day I went to AWA last year. It was on a Saturday, and I also had an advantage because daylight savings time ended. So I went to AWA. I woke up 6 a.m. in the morning, and then got in the car, drove to Atlanta. It's like 2 hours away from where I live, so I was like, okay, it's a 2 hour drive, so I can do it. So I woke up at 6, left the house at 7, and then got there at 9, which was perfect timing to get into registration, into the dealer's room, and catch up with my peeps that I haven't seen in a while. And then it was actually very comfortable that day. But when I left that night, I actually left at I think I left at midnight or 1 o'clock. Yeah, I think I left at 1 o'clock because when I got home it was 1 o'clock. So you actually know when I got home it was 2 o'clock. Let's just say that fall backwards, spring forward. So at 2 o'clock it was 1 o'clock again. So I got home, left at 1, got home at 2 o'clock from a 2 hour drive. So that's like very, very bizarre when you think about it. But no, it was very cold because I wore my Vegeta skull cap and poofball hat. I'm sure those poofball hat you've seen at Spencer's at one point. So I had that on. I was like, yeah, I got my Vegeta hat on, so I'm all set. Going to a con and all that, I'm good. But it was also right after I came back from Korea. It was like 2 weeks after I came back from Korea, in which it's a week ago. Last week was the year anniversary of my trip to Korea. So I still have some video I haven't released yet, so I might be up on a YouTube channel at some point. But right now, you can actually go to the channel and check out a video highlight of my time at the Coex Aquarium. So that's one of the memories I have to share of Korea right now. And also, if you go back and go to the Instagram account for Centaku Media, there's some pictures and stuff from that. Oh yeah, and one other thing I do I guess to combine everything I've talked about so far of Korea, you can go to centakumedia.com and check out the series, The Soul Searching Chronicles, and it chronicles my 5 days in Seoul, and you can also see that video as well. So if you're curious to see what Korea's like, then be sure to check it out. Also, speaking of which, I know it's difficult right now to travel out of the country, especially like going to Japan. But if you're interested in going to Japan, there might be a news story about that if you're up for it in this interesting climate. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and go into our anime, gaming, and entertainment news segment. But first, there's a word from our sponsor. Welcome to the news segment of the journal, which is our main event. And of course, to kick things off before we get into gaming, entertainment, and some offbeats this week, we're going to talk about an upcoming Netflix anime project, which is based on an anime movie that was released in the late 90s that some people may have forgotten about. So this news is of the Spriggan anime series. From this news story on ANN, they report that the staff of David Productions, this series is based on the Spriggan or Striker manga. Striker, if depending on what part of the world you're in. It's based on Hiroshi Takashige and Ryoji Minagawa's work. And Hiroshi Kobayashi, a Razor Bahamut Genesis assistant director, Kill la Kill episode director, is directing the anime. Hiroshi Seko of Attack on Titan, Mob Psycho 100, Jujutsu Kaisen is in charge of series composition and screenplay, and Shuhei Honda of Little Witch Academia is the character designer. And of course, Netflix being the streaming powerhouse, it will debut the anime worldwide. The manga story centers on Yu Ominai, a high school student who is also a Spriggan, an agent charged by the Arkham Corporation to protect the ancient relics of an advanced older civilization from falling into the hands of states and entities who wish to misuse them. Takashige wrote the Spriggan manga with artist Minagawa beginning in 1989. Viz Media published edited versions of three of the manga's 11 volumes as Striker in North America from 98 to 99. The manga inspired an anime film in 98. And ADV Films released the film in 2002 with an English dub. So, yeah, this might sound familiar to a lot of people because it is, it was originally an anime movie, which was released in the late 90s. And I actually saw this years ago as well. It was like during like the very beginning of my binge into various anime during that timeline. It was like, yeah, it was, gosh, what was it? Yeah, it was around early 2000s, so it was around that time period. So I think at the time it was just released. And I'm trying to remember where I saw it. I think it was when Stars or Encore, because Encore, their action channel, they, air anime a whole lot. So that was like the good source of my anime besides Adult Swim at the time and Toonami, or at least what was left of it at the time. So yeah, I think it was Spriggan, and then Tekkaman Blade, Macross Plus was just like my only favorite Macross series. Trying to see what else. Oh, of course, Cowboy Bebop the movie, because I got that on DVD. Did I? No. I was gonna say, did I see that in theaters? I'm like, no. It was actually like during that period where it was released in select theaters, and I think the theater that was closest to me at the time when I lived in Chicago was like kind of far out of the way, and I was younger, and I had to rely on transportation from my mother. So I'm like, no, that's not possible. But I ended up getting it on DVD like on day one. But anyway, so yes, I think it was on Encore's Action Channel back in the day, or either that I Netflix. But anyway, I did see it, so I saw it, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. Like, of course, the plot is what it is, but I guess the execution of it, I just wasn't satisfied with it. It didn't excite me like with most shows. Like, it didn't excite me the way Mount Cross Plus did, but I was like, eh. And judging from the reviews of it, like on my anime list and a few others, they were like, it got mixed reviews too. I'm like, eh. Guys, even people, like, if you go to the forums of this article on Anime News Network, people will say, hopefully they can do better than they did the other time. Because basically, I guess the word I'm looking for that they use is mediocre. Yeah, so I'm hoping, like, I will check it out, a little bit of it, and I guess I'll go with what they call the 3-episode challenge. Actually, this would have been a good story to talk about because I think it was on either Crunchyroll or Reddit or something. But basically, there's a 3-episode challenge where you give a show enough time to see if it'll reel you in. And sometimes I usually give it 7 episodes. I don't know, it's like Gundam Seed is one of those shows. I actually gave it like several episodes before I gave up on it. I'm like, no, just no. So yeah, I don't know how they're gonna release. You know how Netflix release everything in bulk. So I think in certain regions they do this. So I know in the U.S. they release everything at once. And I think they're now doing very few shows, a handful of shows weekly. And I think there's a few K-dramas they're doing on a weekly basis. In Japan, Carol and Tuesday was released on a weekly basis, but they did part 1 of the series on one day in the U.S., and then they released the second half a few months later. And that's actually what's going on with Pokemon Journeys, because they're releasing like 12 episodes? Yeah, 12, 13 episodes every quarter. So I'm pretty sure the next set will come out like in December. But yeah, that's what I'm telling you. They didn't say when how they're gonna release it. So it might be bulk, one day bulk release. But anyway, we'll find out details when it comes out closer to the premiere, which is in 2021. So moving on. So speaking of classics, so G-Kids licensed the Evangelion TV series as well as the films for Blu-ray and digital release. So G-Kids announced that it has licensed the North American theatrical, home video, and EST rights to the 1995-1996 Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion television series, as well as the films Evangelion, Death, True Square, and The End of Evangelion. The company plans to offer these titles on Blu-ray and digital download to own next year. This is the first time that the television series has been available on Blu-ray in North America. And also, Evangelion is celebrating their 25th anniversary. Yay! Happy anniversary to Evangelion. Netflix began streaming the series in June of 2019. Of course, it has a new dub and all that good stuff. And for those that don't know what Evangelion is, because even if you don't watch it, you should know what it's about. But AD 2015, Tokyo 3 is under attack by powerful creatures known as the Angels. Protagonist Shinji Iraki is chosen to pilot the humanoid decisive weapon Evangelion, the only way for humanity to fight against the Angels. The battle for the fate of humanity starts now. What exactly are the Angels? What fate awaits the young pilots and humanity itself? So, Evangelion Death True Square, I guess is how you pronounce it because it's a tiny 2 at the top. It's the updated 1998 edition of the 97 compilation of the anime series with some updated footage. And the end of Evangelion film provided a new ending to the story in 1997. So, the original anime and films are some of the most influential and critically acclaimed works in the history of the medium, but have long remained out of print and unavailable in North America. ADV Films' last release of the anime was the Platinum Edition DVDs in 2004 and 2005, and of course, ADV shut down in 2009. And, of course, Evangelion is like, I guess compared to Gundam, it's still like a huge, has a huge following, and also it's had its share of spin-off series and collaborations. So Hideaki Anno, the director of the anime, founded Studio Kara in 2006. He and the studio began producing a new tetralogy, or I guess how you pronounce it. That's a new word for me. Of films titled Rebuild of Evangelion, which reinterprets the events of the series. So the tetralogy began with Evangelion 1.0, You Are Not Alone in 2007, followed by 2.0, You Cannot Advance, and Evangelion 3.0, You Cannot Redo in 2009 and 2012 respectively. And Shin Evangelion Gekijo Ban, or Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, Thrice Upon a Time. The final film is currently in production, but it has been delayed due to I don't know. I have no idea why it's delayed. I don't know. But anyway, you get an idea why it's delayed. There's sarcasm behind that statement right there. So anyway, yeah. So happy anniversary to Evangelion, and actually, I almost had my hands on the Platinum Edition back in the day, because it was actually at Walmart for a reasonable price, but I had to decide between Rurouni Kenshin or Evangelion. So I chose Rurouni Kenshin, but even that, it was a mistake because it was just season 1 at the time. And I didn't have, of course, being younger, I didn't have a job, access to a job, so I had to make do with what I got. But yeah, I still have season 1 of Rurouni Kenshin, which is going to waste, but I do plan on collecting the series again in the future, or as soon as it's I think this has been re-released. I don't know. I've been focusing on catching up on my Gundam collection, which is pretty much caught up now. But anyway, so yeah, so Evangelion, look forward on Blu-ray. I guess Blu-ray will be a good choice in this case. I don't know if they're gonna use the Netflix dub or the original ADV dub, but I imagine they're gonna use the Netflix dub since that's most recent. So anyway, so our last piece of anime news, which actually is a tie-in to our gaming news moving forward. The Pokemon Company unveiled the Gacha music video with animation by Studio Bones. The video features the song Acacia. I hope I pronounced that right. For those that are familiar with Minecraft or just familiar with trees, performed by Bump of Chicken, who originally performed theme songs for Tales of the Abyss, Grand Blue Fantasy, The Animation, and Karakuri Circus. Rie Matsumoto of known for Blood Blockade Battlefront. Yes, Precure 5 directed the music video at Bones. Yuki Hayashi of Kyosogiga in Dreland, I think, provided character designs, and Genki Karamura and Masami Hatanaka are credited for planning and producing the video. Masumoto and Hayashi previously partnered with Bones and Bump of Chicken to produce a music video for the snack company Lotte, which is actually a company well known in Korea. So I think they have huge connections with Japan and Korea. So if you see anything in Japan by Lotte, very likely it originated in Korea. Cause actually, like, we went to Lotte World in Korea, so yeah, that's where their origin is. Well, I guess, like I said, they have a strong base in Japan and Korea, but they are mostly a Korean company, I believe. But anyway, so those are curious. If they haven't seen the music video yet, it will be in the show notes on centakumedia.com for this episode. Just be sure to follow the link in the description for this episode. And the reason why this music video was made, which actually ties into our next set of news, is to commemorate the announcement of the upcoming Pokemon Sword and Shield Crown Tundra expansion pack, which has been announced for an October 22nd release. The Pokemon company revealed during a live stream that the second of two expansion packs, with the first being the Isle of Armor, will be released on the 22nd. Additionally, there will be a $90 edition or all-in-one versions of the game that will ship on November 6th. So, if you've missed out on Pokemon, you have a chance to buy it again with the included expansion packs. In the expansion, a new character, Peony, will appoint the player as an expedition team to investigate a snowy landscape and Pokemon Den. Every legendary Pokemon to appear in the main series Pokemon games will be available in a new expansion through Dynamax Adventure. Players will form groups of 4 to explore caves and battle Dynamax Pokemon. In the Galarian Star Tournament, players will form teams with characters they previously encountered in the games. To celebrate the expansion's launch, 8 different Ash's Pikachu variants will be available for the game via passwords release and quote-unquote various places. New Pokemon in the Crown Tundra will include Galarian forms of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. The new legendary Pokemon, Regileki. Oh my god, I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, I think Regileki. I'm gonna go with it. And Regidrago will debut in the expansion. The live stream also announced that the connectivity between the Pokemon Go game and Pokemon Home is slated to launch this year. The connectivity will allow players to transfer Pokemon from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Sword and Shield. Transferring Pokemon will allow players to receive a special Melmetal that can Gigantamax. The Pokemon Home Service cloud-based service launched for the Switch, iOS, and Android devices in February, and it's also compatible with Pokemon Bank, Let's Go Pikachu, and Eevee. So, yay, more Pokemon to go around for the remainder of what this year's been. And actually, I have the first expansion pack, Isle of Armor, but I've touched base into the new region, but I haven't played through it yet because I'm imposing a game limit right now, because right now I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. I'm so slowly but surely going through that. And I know I normally stream 14, but I'm actually just trying to focus on getting ahead of the story, so I might stream it again when I get to Shadowbringers, because right now, as I'm recording this, I'm 22 quests away from completing the base Stormblood expansion, and then after that, it's like 40 quests of the post-expansion content before I actually get to Shadowbringers. So there's that, and then I'm playing Breath of the Wild, which is for Metrotham Gaming, which is a gaming channel that's under the MetrothamCon brand. So I don't know if I've talked about this before, but yes, I am on staff with MetrothamCon, which is a multi-fandom convention here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I am head of security right now. So that's like one of the things I've been doing, which is why I've imposed a end of month recess moving forward, so that way I can focus on taking care of myself and doing con stuff as well. So if you're interested in volunteering, just be sure to check out metronicon.com. um, but no, I'm playing that. I'm playing Breath of the Wild, and I'm also playing Final Fantasy X and Shenmue 2, which are being streamed on the Centaku Media channel on Twitch. So if you're interested in checking out what Shenmue 2 is all about, be sure to tune in Thursday and Fridays at 9 p.m. And Final Fantasy X, which I just started playing as of this episode, it will be on Fridays at 3 p.m. And of course, I know that's kind of tricky for myself since Friday's normally my off day, so it might get pushed to like 4 or 5, but 3 is going to be the ideal time right now. And for those that just are listening as soon as this episode comes out, you can go to the channel now. Be sure to check it out as soon as possible, rather, because there's few of these of the streams, especially for Final Fantasy X, and since Final Fantasy X will be on a weekly basis, it will be up 2 weeks from the stream date. So it will be up until next Friday, and of course I'll be streaming again this Friday, or I'll be streaming again Thursday. But yeah, there's few of these if you want to check it out. So anyway, so moving forward, I know I went a little off topic on that, but but yeah, so I'll come back to Pokemon eventually, and also I know I got something else to talk about, but yeah, also I do have a in-game playthrough of Pokemon Sword on the channel on YouTube. So anyway, enough self promotion. So this next news story is interesting right here. So for the PlayStation 5, I don't know how to explain this, so I don't know how many of you all play imported games from Japan or maybe from Europe. I think it's probably more mainly in Asian countries. But there's one game in particular that comes to mind with this issue. It was not really an issue, it's just kind of, I guess interesting inconvenience, I guess. So for the PlayStation 5, when you confirm something on the screen, you'll be able to press the X button to confirm it in all regions. And what this means is that, let's say, okay, so Metal Gear Solid is an example of this issue. So, Metal Gear Solid, for those that remember the very first Metal Gear Solid game, for the PlayStation, well, not just the first one, but I think it's sort of the second one and the third one, and I think they changed it in the fourth and the fifth one. So whenever you confirm something on the screen to go to the options or just anything, you have to press the circle button to go through. And again, I think in 4, Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, they switch it to X, which I'm like, yes, someone, gets me. They understand people. But I think in Japan, they still kept it circle. But here, as far as I know, it's X. So I'm like, that was interesting. So this is that case for the PlayStation 5. The Japanese game and media website AV Watch reported on Sunday that the PlayStation 5 console will standardize the use of the X button to confirm, as a confirm button all across all the regions. This has already been the standard in the West since the first PlayStation, but in Japan and in most Asian regions, the circle button is the confirm button instead of X. Of course, in Japan, the O button is used to mark something as correct, such as grading exams. So Sony also confirmed to AV Watch that the change is being made to avoid having the confirm button being different between the console's menu and in-game controls. In both the PS3 and PS4, users are able to specify whether the X or O button would serve as the confirm button, although consoles would ship with the default depending on the region. So, yay. So, that's actually it makes sense for them to use the X button because that would be, to confirm something. But I know Metal Gear Solid was something that they actually kept up with. I don't know if there was any other games that was released outside Japan that had that option, but yeah, that's something interesting to talk about because not many people know about that, but now you know. All right, next news story we have is something I actually talked about in a previous episode. Not previous episode, but that's to be at least a few episodes back. But it was me talking about this convention which is normally held between Canada, the UK, and the US called KupoCon. And for those familiar with Final Fantasy, is the by fans for fans Final Fantasy convention that's held, I think at least 3 times a year, but it's mostly held in UK, as I said, and some in Canada. There was at least one event held in New Jersey, I believe. I think like last year. I think that was like one of the few attempts of them branching out into outside of Europe and Canada. But of course, with 2020, what it is they've decided to do an awards event that awards the best of the Final Fantasy franchise, and of course, Square Enix has no say in this, but I'm pretty sure they're like watching them as it's promoting positivity with their franchise, and of course, within certain fandoms, that means a bloodbath will ensue, depending on what side of the fandom you're on of within Final Fantasy. So they say that the award show just basically it's just for fun, but I'm sure some people are gonna take it seriously. Like at least for me, I do kind of take it kind of seriously with me being huge into Final Fantasy X and much less Final Fantasy VII. And of course, with that said, it's expected that Final Fantasy VII will get a lot of the wins. But actually, there are actually some surprises from this. So yeah, back earlier, like back in the summer, they had a list of nominees between a few dozen categories, so at least 30 categories, and then of course there are some categories that are centric to the event itself, but the biggest ones are like the best in the series, like best summons, best mini game, and all that stuff. But anyway, so last weekend, or at least the weekend of the 3rd or 4th, I believe, the first weekend of October, they had the awards gala on the Facebook page, on the KupoCon's Facebook page, which you can check out anytime on their Facebook page, and the link to their Facebook page is in the show notes, or which is KupoCon EN or English. You just type KupoCon on Facebook and it'll take you there under their videos. So yeah, they finally awarded. We finally figured out who's the best of the best in Final Fantasy. Of course, the biggest one was my curiosity when it came to the best male voice actor, and of course there were some surprises there. So for best male voice actor, I was talking about in the previous episode, one of the nominees included almost the cast, almost all the Chocobros from Final Fantasy 15, which is Robbie Damon as Prompto, Ray Chase as Noctis, and Adam Crossdale as Ignis. And there were a couple of surprising omissions, which included Cloud, which I'm sure they're going to reference the current voice of Cloud in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And of course, you have Barrett, which is one of the leading nominees representing Final Fantasy VII, but Matt McKenzie, who's the voice of Auron, was also one of the nominees, so it surprised me. That's why, because I was not expecting Auron to be on there, because apparently he gets a shaft a lot, just at least in my opinion, but he is an important character, at least in Final Fantasy X. But anyway, we're about to figure out exactly who took home the Crystal Shard Award. So, all 27 categories here. I might have missed one, but I made sure to get all 27 categories of the winners from the KupoCon Awards in case you missed it. So, these are slightly out of order from when they announced it, but at least they're all here. Hopefully, like I said, I might have missed one. So for best iconic creature, of course, goes to the Chocobo. Best weapon is the Buster Sword from, no surprise there, Final Fantasy VII. The best minigame is Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII. The best location, Midgard in Final Fantasy VII. Best summon, Shiva. Best soundtrack, of course, Final Fantasy VII, but it's the remake. Best song, which I was so excited that one is the Tusanakin from Final Fantasy X. Best character, then this is a surprise because of course Cloud was one of the nominees for this category in addition to Ignis, and I don't know if Auron was in that too, just Auron, not the character, not just his voice actor, but the award goes to Fifi from Final Fantasy IX, and like I said, that's a really That was a surprise. So I'm glad Fifi got the award and not Cloud, because I know Cloud is this. But anyway, yeah. Congrats to Fifi. And for best villain, we have Kefka from Final Fantasy VI. And one of these actually was appropriate for each of these games, these awards rather. So for best artistic direction, the award went to Final Fantasy 15, and the best iconic storyline went to Final Fantasy 10. And again, those deserved awards because I did really enjoy the direction Final Fantasy 15 went, and of course Final Fantasy 10. Like, I can't go wrong with Final Fantasy 10 because like I could talk about Final Fantasy 10 all day, and it deserved the awards. I'm glad that it got some recognition besides just best game, and of course, anyway, so best battle system goes to Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and best DLC goes to Episode Ignis, which also deserves an award. Of course, Episode Ignis is part of Final Fantasy 15. Best expansion pack goes to Shadowbringers from Final Fantasy 14, which I imagine, but like I said, I'm getting there. I'm like less than 50 quests away until I get to Shadowbringers, but I believe it. I've heard good things about it, and I'm very optimistic of experiencing that for myself as well. Best mobile game, Dissidia Opera Omnia. Best spin-off, Final Fantasy Tactics. Best movie, Kingsglaive, Final Fantasy 15. Best remaster, Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age. Best remake, of course, Final Fantasy 7. And of course, this is the moment of truth as far as who the award went to for best male voice actor. And that award went to John Eric Bentley, who's the voice of Barrett in 7R. So congratulations to Eric Bentley. And for best female voice goes to Britt Baron, who is Tifa, also representative of 7R. So congratulations to both actor and actress for those role awards. And of course, the award for best mainline Final Fantasy game goes to none other than Final Fantasy VII. No surprise there. I'm really impressed with how they did their voting system and stuff like that. I think these are very fair award winners, guys. There are some, of course, Final Fantasy VII, because a lot of people, that was their first Final Fantasy game because it was released for the PlayStation and was very, I guess, different for its time. So that I understand why people enjoy 7 more than they did any other game. So for those that have been at KupoCon or just curious as to what the other winners were, so these other categories are kind of like unimportant, but I figured I'd talk about them anyway. So for those that have actually been to KupoCon, these awards are for best aspects of the event or the event itself. So for the best KupoCon Day event goes to POMEX, which was held in London in 2019, and the best evening event of KupoCon is the Big Band Bash in Glasgow in 2020, and the best KupoCon event of, I guess, any of the KupoCon events is the Chocobo Ranch Active Time event. And the best community project is the Nibelheim incident. And the last award goes to the best tripod card goes to Black Waltz, which was designed by artist King Kale. They are prominent on Twitter and Facebook. Not Facebook, I think Tumblr. That's what I was gonna say. Tumblr. Yeah, they're actually really good artists. Like, they've done a good art. They done some fan art of Final Fantasy 10 and 15. But yeah, they're pretty good. So yeah, congratulations to all these ones. Congratulations to everyone. Like I said, this was actually a very entertaining awards show. And I assure you that if Cloud was on there for best voice actor, like, what's the point of even having an award show? Like, I'm really glad they gave these, like I said, these are very diverse nominees and awards that were given out. So that was really exciting. So again, if you are interested in checking out the actual ceremony, it is on their Facebook page. It's about 2 hours long. I unfortunately didn't see the whole awards show because I kind of figured out who else was going to win, and the other categories are kind of like not in my field of vision. And it wasn't really important compared to like the male female voice actor and best song and all that. But yeah, so be sure to check it out and support them, because they might I think they were planning to do something like this again in the future, but they are having an online event, an online DayCon Uh, I think it'll be on their Facebook page primarily, so be sure to check it out if you're interested in more things Final Fantasy. Yeah, so that's it for gaming news, and after that we have entertainment news as always. And so if you're into K-pop, so even if you're out of the loop, then this is the place to listen for new information, especially when it comes to Korean culture. So I know a lot of you are probably familiar with just Japanese culture, but for Korean culture, uh, of course, I'm more into K-pop than I have been with J-pop in the past, 10 years. This one is something that you might, be interested in hearing as far as like Korean idols and how Korea as a country functions. So in Korea, Korean men have to serve in the military. They have mandatory military service before they hit a certain age, and it's usually 30, or rather, it is now 30. But usually, when they hit 25, they're like in that window of when they have to enlist, and of course, they can enlist as soon as they're 18 or whatever the minimum age to serve in the military, so that way they can get it out of the way, especially like if they're idols, willing to, get ahead and just get it behind them and all that stuff. I'm trying to figure out some examples. So there've been some good examples and bad examples. Well, mostly bad examples. So, uh, a lot of idols in particular. I think Super Junior. I guess any K-pop idol from the early 2010s all the way into like maybe the last few years, they've always had to postpone their military enlistment because of their status as a celebrity. But now the Korean military is basically making it, the government rather, is making it to where they can't postpone it any longer and they have to serve no matter. So, like, if you just hit 30, you have to serve in the army. So, I think it's 18 months or 2 years, depending on what field you're in and, based on your condition, mental and physical condition. And there have been some K-pop idols that have gotten into trouble or even exiled from Korea. Like, I'm not joking. This a Korean celebrity that got banned from his own country because he was accused of draft dodging. So one recent example is of MC Mong, who he's a rapper. He was popular mostly in the 2000s, but it was until like at least almost 10 years ago he got into trouble and fell out of the spotlight because he had his teeth pulled, and at first it looked like it was a legitimate issue, but they timed it up with his like appointments to when he's supposed to be enlisted, and they're saying, "Hey, wait a minute, are you draft dodging?" And they figured out that, hey, you are, and I think he pleaded guilty of doing that, and because of that, he's out of the public eye, and he's made a comeback recently, but he's still like trying to keep it low key because people are still upset about what he did. This next celebrity, for reference, as far as military enlistment goes with celebrities, this one, the one I was talking about that was banned from his own country, he was really big in the late 90s, and he goes by Yu Sung Jun. And going into the 2000s, he apparently had left for the US for some reason. I forget off the top of my head exactly why he left. But he left the country, but it was at the same time when he was supposed to enlist, so he didn't show up for his enlistment. And then of course everyone freaked out and like, why did you leave? And of course there was a whole shit show about it, and because of what he did, he was told that he couldn't come back to Korea because he's a traitor, because he basically, it looked like he deliberately dodged his enlistment. And the only time he was able to come back to Korea was for his father's funeral, like a couple of years later. But he's been mostly active in China now as an actor. He goes under a different name now, and he's tried to basically come back into the Korean entertainment industry, even though he's still banned from the country, but people are still hurt about what happened, and the reason why is because at the time he was a positive role model for young Koreans, and there was actually there's a video I'm gonna link in the show notes that basically talks about Yoo Sung Jun. He appeared in some ads that talked about bullying. Basically, it was against bullying, and it was really, it sold a really. It was a good ad, and it actually made a difference. And so by him doing what he did, dodging his draft, they were like, "Why would you do that? Like, you had so much going for you, and so now you're a traitor. So like, why? Don't even come back." So now, fast forward to 20 years later, and of course, the biggest act in Korea right now is BTS. So, BTS, they're global superstars, and so of course they have uh, a high amount of pressure put upon them compared to Yoon Sung Jun. And just considering how many achievements they've gotten in the past 5 years since they've been a group, this leads to a question on whether they would be exempt from military service, because there are very few exemptions for celebrities in Korea. So this article from Korea Boo basically states that, people have been wondering for months if BTS will be granted military exemption, considering their contribution to the country, because they've brought economic growth and recognition to South Korea as a whole. And the Military Manpower Administration, or the MMA, announced on the 9th of October that they are unwilling to support exception of mandatory military service for the group, citing principles of justice and equality. The administration has not spoken up on the matter prior to this. According to past examples in the general law, special cases are granted military exemption. This includes high-achieving athletes as well as renowned classical musicians. An example would be Sung Hyun-min, who also goes by Sunny, who clinched the gold for South Korea in 2018. He was granted exemption then. However, despite the debate and some caused by ruling party lawmakers, the MMA has put its foot down. K-pop idols will not be granted any exemption. According to the MMA, K-pop singers are not eligible as it is not in line with the government's basic stance regarding mandatory military service. Instead, a deferral of enlistment is a viable option. Currently, a revision bill sits waiting for judgment to allow K-pop idols to defer their duty until a maximum of 30 years of age, which is kind of pretty much what I just said earlier. According to existing laws, citizens of South Korea have to write in with their circumstance to request for deferment with the possibility of rejection. So it wasn't until I think 2 years ago they actually made it a little rough. They made some changes to where they have to enlist by the age of 30. And one of these celebrities that come to mind was Jung Eun Suk, who is my husbando, and he's 33. Like, I had to think about how old is he? Yeah, he's 33. So yeah, he's 2 years older than me. So he's 33, and he was basically past that age. So as soon as he turned 31, they said, "No, you have to go." So he went to the military, and so now he's out of the military. Now he was released at the end of May, so now he's a free man, and I'm looking forward to what he has to offer. But anyways, going back to BTS though. So BTS, Jin of BTS, he's actually the first one. First one to go in the next year or two, because he's of that, basically he's in that window of having to enlist. So I know this is kind of rough considering the coronavirus situation we're in, and that BTS was to embark on a world tour this year. So like, I'm wondering like if they'll do an exemption for something like that. Like, depending on how bad this is, like, I mean, if it gets any better come, like next summer, will they be able to consider, new dates for the concert? Like, will they be able to pull it off then before he has to enlist? So there's like so many questions going on there, but that's, I hope this news segment gives you some insights of how all of this goes down. But yeah, I will link that video. It's actually by DKDK TV about Yoo Sung Jun and his situation regarding his military enlistment and banishment from the country. So like, all of this is just interesting stuff because almost every person I talk to that I've got into K-pop, like been in K-pop for the first few years, they find this out. They say, "Oh wait, they still have to serve in the military because they technically still at war with the North." So of course it makes sense that they would still have to do what they need to do. And I don't know, even if both North and South were to finally, unify, will they still have to do this? So I don't know. Like all this is interesting stuff. So yeah, be sure to check out the show notes for that video about Yoo Sung Jun. And also, if you want to read more, like this is from Korea Boo, so if you want to have your feedback to Korea Boo, be sure to check it out. Anyway, so moving forward, so for those that are looking for new music, there's a new song out by a subunit of WJSN. Their unit is called Chromone Chokome. Shit. For those that are looking for new music, there's a new subunit that's under Cosmic Girls, or WJSN. Their unit is called Chacome. I believe I'm butchering the name. I'm sure. I'm gonna say Chacome or Chacome. Their unit, basically, their song is called Humph, and it's copying the style of Orange Caramel. And for those that don't know who Orange Caramel was a subunit of After School, which they're no longer a band now. So, or I think they are still banned. But then again, I'm not familiar with girl groups, and Orange Caramel was one of the few exceptions. So, like Orange Caramel, one of their songs was called Lipstick, and like I don't know, their style of music then was like very catchy. So I'm like, yeah, I can get behind this. So, their songs Aing, Abing, and Magic Girl and Catalina. This song in particular by Chacombe is basically like as if Orange Caramel reunited. Let's put it that way. I'm gonna say Chacombe. I think that sounds better. If I'm wrong, well, I apologize. But anyway, so Lizzie, who's a former member of After School and Orange Caramel, was called out. Or rather, she got called out for calling out Cosmic Girls' unit group for copying Orange Caramel. And on Instagram, an Instagram story that she deleted, I guess as soon as it was posted, she shared a screenshot of the music video along with the caption, "I hope that WJSN will go beyond what OC has, #Humph Whiting, but there's some overlapping things with Orange Caramel, including the music video concept. Aing, Ibing, Magic Girl, Catalina, Humph. Raina, Nana, and Lizzie are the best." And then there's a fan of WJSN even commented on her Instagram post, thanking the veteran idol for her support. Lizzie personally replied to the fan. However, another netizen pointed out that it was likely Lizzie was being sarcastic in her compliments for her juniors. Given that Orange Caramel was well known and loved for their wacky concepts and get-ups, Lizzie may have felt slighted at the similarities. Although her original post has been removed, Lizzie stepped up to clarify when a fan criticized her for her sarcasm. So from the netizen, they responded, "You're so impressive for telling Cosmic Girls. Thanks, fighting. I hope you will continue to support Cosmic Girls in the future. You won't delete my comment this time, right?" And Lizzie responds with, "Me? I didn't delete that. I was sincere when I said thank you and fighting. I think the comment got deleted because OP deleted the comment." Huh. Here's of course, they link to a song by Orange Caramel, but I'm gonna link to my favorite one, Lipstick, in the show notes. So be sure to check it out, as well as the music video of their new subunit. And of course, there hasn't been any comment from either camp about the issue. And of course, for those that are familiar with Lizzie, she's currently active as actress Park Soo Young, which is her real name. And yeah, be sure to check out both videos just to get an idea of what's going on, and like, can you like spot the similarities? Like, yeah, that's actually my friend. The other day we were chatting on PlayStation Network, and she played me the song, and I'm like, "Is that Orange Caramel?" I said, "No, this is their new subunit." And I'm like, "Huh, this is Cosmic Girls' new subunit." So I'm like, "Huh, interesting." Okay, so yeah, so be sure to check that out. And to close out music news, so for those that are familiar with X Japan, Yoshiki, who's the leader of X Japan, he will be releasing a photo book titled XY on his birthday on November 20th, and it will be his first photo book in 28 years. And in the photos in XY, he rented out the Paramore estate in Los Angeles and worked with photographer Melanie Pullen and other Hollywood staff. And the book will also come with a DVD containing 30 minutes worth of behind the scenes footage as well as an interview. On the shoot, Yoshiki commented, "I've received offers like this many times, but in many ways I didn't think it would actually happen. At the most perfect timing, I was able to work with such wonderful talents." So yes, if you want more X Japan in your life, especially of Yoshiki, then be sure to check out his photo book. And I'm pretty sure it'll be available on not X Japan, CD Japan. So CD Japan is actually a an affiliate of Centaku Media. So be sure to check if you interested in supporting Centaku Media. You can purchase uh goods through CD Japan using the affiliate link on centakumedia.com. And also if the book is available for pre-order, I'll link it there so that way anything. So this has a disclaimer. So any links that you follow, which will be a disclaimer there in the show notes too, that any links you follow that goes to an affiliate will go back to Centaku Media to help support um any costs as far as like the longevity of the site, and just for motivation and all that. So there's that, and that's it for music news. And so to wrap up our Centaku Media Journal, we got two more pieces of news in our offbeats. So one of them is I think I talked about this in the intro. Yeah, I did talk about it in the intro. And so with everything going on with the coronavirus, it's hard to travel anywhere, honestly. Like even out of state, because I know some states are out of control. Some states actually have it under control, but it's just not a really good idea to travel unless you really, really have to. But Japan, in particular, of course, is halfway around the world, right? So it's been over half a year since Japan closed its borders to international tourists as a result of the virus pandemic. And while it's dealt a particularly hard blow for the tourism industry, especially in light of the fact that the Olympics and Paralympics are scheduled to bring millions of visitors during the summer of 2020, so far it's helped keep cases of the virus relatively low and prevented the collapse of the health systems. So now that the Tokyo Olympics is scheduled to begin on July 23rd, pandemic or not, according to reports, the topic of when to start lifting entry ban on tourism from overseas has become a pressing issue. The Japanese government, who recently lifted the ban on non-citizen foreign residents from October, says they've now begun quote-unquote full-scale investigations into how and when they'll be opening up the country to foreign tourists. Government officials have revealed that they plan to have coronavirus countermeasures set up for international tourists by January next year. Once the safety measures are in place, the government says Japan plans to lift the ban on foreign tourists on a trial basis from April 2021, while keeping an eye on the pandemic situation in Japan and overseas. The new safety measures aim to cover the 3 steps of a tourist's journey from arrival through to stay and departure, with the establishment of a health management app and dedicated, quote, fever center. Foreign tourists who wish to visit Japan will be required to download the health management app, and it will be obligatory to obtain a pre-departure coronavirus negative test certificate. If a new arrival does test positive for the virus after entering the country, they will be required to take out private medical insurance. Those who test negative upon arrival will not be required to quarantine inside a hotel. Instead, they'll be required to report their health status through the app for 14 days after entering Japan. The tentatively named Fever Health Consultation Support Center will be set up specifically for overseas fishers as a way to take the pressure off local governments and avoid overburdening the Japanese health system. The health center will likely be set up in Tokyo, the host city of the Olympics. Government officials say the new safety measures for foreign fishers will remain in place after the Olympics as Japan attempts to take measured steps towards reviving international tourism. However, the government admits there are still many issues that need to be resolved before the ban on foreign tourists is lifted, including how to ensure the app is used correctly, the number of tourists allowed in during the Olympics, and what limits, if any, will be placed on the activities of tourists while in the country. So, if you're really desperate to go to Japan, there's some options there, but of course, it's going to be a little longer. From what it sounds like, it's going to be a little longer before you can actually go back into Japan. But honestly, even with these measures in place, I would still wait until the coast is clear, because, like, it's going to cost more to protect yourself than just to go to the country. And like, as tempting as it sounds, because right now, if if you're a foreigner already in Japan, like, you're probably, chances are you're stuck there, and it depends on your country too. Because I think in the U.S. there's still some kind of travel restrictions, but then again, it's considering how laughable the U.S. has been with their response and prevention, and flattening the curve. It's just a joke, really. But I would just wait until like 2023 at this rate. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not worth it. And like, I do want to go back to Korea. Like, I really, really want to go back to Korea, and I actually have the money for it. Well, I had the money for it, but I went ahead and used it for something responsible, like paying my bills. So there'll always be another time, and at least by the time this is all over with, I'll have enough money and have my bills paid off. Provided nothing else happens. Thank goodness. So, knocking on wood, that nothing else happens between now and when I am actually able to travel freely again without, looking over my shoulder at something invisible, that will, cause a lot of harm for myself and other people. So, anyway, that's just, interesting to point out if you're like seriously consider going to Japan at some point. And I actually know I have a couple of friends that actually were going to go to Japan this year, actually this month, but of course, that was thrown out the window as soon as, this happened. So, so like someday Japan will be, there. Japan we'll always have Japan. It's just we can't go there right now. So just be patient, and we'll be able to go there without having to take, looking over our shoulders, like I said. So, but anyway, to end our journal episode, this one should have been under anime news, but I figured it was kind of interesting to give it a spot in the offbeat section. So, speaking of the coronavirus, so I think, like, I'm sure if you're familiar with Dr. Stone, you would agree that Senku would be a good doctor to come up with a vaccine to kill COVID-19. But in the meantime, he's gonna give us a Snickers bar to save the day. So there's a ad in Japan, of course, a 30-second ad for Snickers, where it shows the protagonist Senku from Dr. Stone using a Snickers bar to free a Japanese comedian, Koki Kusanagi, who is covered in stone. So, like, the ad is also in the show notes for those that are curious to check out. This ad also triggers a promotional campaign on Twitter with the Dr. Stone anime from October 5th through the 18th. The campaign's Twitter account will ask a question regarding scientific components of a Snickers bar and how one would make it in the context of Dr. Stone's world. 40,000 people who answer correctly during this period will win a Snickers bar, while another 100 will win a limited edition clear file. And again, this is in Japan, so no, it's not gonna work out here. So, like I said, that would be nice, because I think right now, it seems like in some places science is like underrepresented. So I think this would be a good show to promote if they were to do this in the US, but of course that's that's gonna be a hard sell. And that is it for episode 11 of the Centaku Media Journal. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this, please be sure to subscribe and give it a like, or do some share it, or do something to spread the word about the podcast. I know it's still a work in progress, even though we're getting close to the end of the first season. And again, there won't be any, like, moving forward, there won't be any monthly episodes of a singular topic, but it'll be on an as needed basis. So if I have an idea for an episode for this month, it will be up on the last Wednesday of the month. But honestly, there probably won't be any episodes until November. All depends on my workload and all that, and whether I can get the idea out in time and have the motivation and all that stuff. So, and what else? Oh yeah, so if you're interested in what Centaku Media has to offer, be sure to check out centakumedia.com. That's where you'll find the show notes for this episode, and links that link directly to the sources for more information. Also, there'll be content exclusive to centakumedia.com. And speaking of which, there is a playthrough of Shenmue 1 that's on the YouTube channel, which is Centaku Chan. Also, it's on the website as well, which contains a playlist of all the episodes released, which is 13 parts. And speaking of playthrough, be sure to check out Centaku Media on Twitch, where Thursday and Friday nights at 9 p.m. I'll be playing Shenmue 2, and Friday at 3 p.m. I'll be playing Final Fantasy X. And also, stay tuned to the season finale of the Centaku Media Journal, which will be at least released around October 28th. And of course, I'll be talking about all your favorite news from your favorite sub-interests, or rather subcultures, rather. And also, one other thing I've been meaning to mention. So, I will be doing a panel I have done a panel for MetroThamCon, and I've already talked about MetroThamCon. And they are having a virtual day because normally their events, the con would have been held the first weekend of March, but due to unforeseen circumstances, it was rescheduled. But even then, even now, it's just not possible to have the event due to the situation at hand. So there will be a virtual day, which will be on October 24th. You can find more details about MetroThamCon's virtual day on metrothamcon.com, as well as the guests where you'll be able to purchase autographs from and be able to have a short one-on-one chat session with them. And also on October 25th, if you're in the Chattanooga area, MetroThamCon is having a Fender Day event, which is a booth or treat theme, which you can attend for free. You can check out the concerts, get candy, all that stuff, and learn more about MetroThamCon. So, of course, social distancing and masks are a requirement to attend this event. So, if you do not agree with all those, then do not attend, please. Be sure to check all of that out on metrothamcon.com, as well as their Facebook page on MetroThamCon, and be sure to check out their live show, which is every Monday at 8 p.m. with guest interviews and everything else of the geek spectrum. And also, if you want to learn more about Centaku Media, be sure to check out Centaku Media on social media, at Centaku Media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And thank you for listening, and until next time, so long. I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done.